كثيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد.
قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم تنزيله: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد علمتم الذين اعتدوا منكم في السبت فقلنا لهم كونوا قردة خاسئين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Without taking much of your time, I want to share with you a story of the Quran and then build what I want to say from that point on. You know, one of the teachings of Quran is to always start, or sometimes to start with the stories. In the Quran, there are so many stories. And not only there are stories in the Quran, even Quran tells us that نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ. Allah said, we tell you the best stories. That if you want to go and check all the stories that were written or will be written, Quran cannot be compared with those stories. But one of the things about the Quran is, whenever we read any story from the Quran, Quran always leaves something with us. And there is a message, a lesson to take home, something to learn to change our lives, to make our life better. With that matter, I said, I want to share with you one of the stories is called Sahoor Sleepover. And you know, in the Quran, there is so much stories about ashab. One is called Ashabul Ukhdud. There is Ashabul Kahf. There is Ashabul Hijr. Then there is Ashabul Ras. Then there is Ashabul Fil. And so on and so forth. These are all companions and people that Quran tells us about them. But tonight I want to share with you a story of Ashab al-Sabt. Ashab al-Sabt were the people that Quran talks about them, and they're called the companions of Saturday. These people, they used to live, some narration said they were before Prophet Musa alayhi salam. What happened, they used to live in a small town. And that town contained so much blessings of Allah. And one of the main blessings that Allah used to give them was fish. They used to go fishing. And they go fishing 7 days a week. Every day. They have no holiday, they have no any resting day. Every day. So later on, Allah told them, listen, you have to take a break. 7 days a week is too much. Every day for Allah. Right? Because Allah gave you 24 hours in a day, and then 7 days a week, at least specify one day for Allah. They said, okay. What day would you like to give for Allah? They chose themselves. It should be one Saturday. So Allah said, okay. So you're allowed to go fishing from Sunday till Friday. Right? But Saturday, no fishing. Let's go. So what happened? They started a routine. Every Saturday they go fishing. From Sunday till Friday they go fishing. And then Saturday they go to the synagogue or church or mosque, whatever you want to call it, they go pray. Then suddenly they develop a routine. After they finish their prayers, they go to the river, just look at what's going on, how the fishes are doing. So Allah wanted to test them. When they go there on Saturday, mashallah, the big fishes show up. Right? And they wag their tails, you can't catch me. Right? But today is Saturday, you can't come into the sea. Right? Okay. So what happened? They said, what are we going to do with this fish? Right? Because they see nice one comes only on Saturday. Because Sunday they come, those fish are gone. So what are we going to do? Now they started thinking. Now, some narration said, they developed one system. They said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Saturday, since we are not allowed to go fishing, what we're going to do, we're going to find some dogs and train them how to fish. Because Allah didn't tell the dogs to go to church, right? So dogs can go fishing anytime, so they are allowed. So what happened? They found certain dogs, they trained them. And Saturday, the dogs will be let loose in the sea just to go fishing. So Allah told them, look, you think you're smarter than Allah? Allah said, I give you the brain, I'm smarter than you. You can't do that either. That is haram. Right? You can't send your dogs to go fishing. They said, okay, maybe Allah doesn't like dogs to fish, so that's it. So we're going to find another way. So what happened? They came up with another way. They said, okay, now this is what we're going to do. Now, we're going to make some tunnels from the river, right, to go to another part of the city, right? So the fish, when they come, they can go through tunnels and get stuck in someone. So Saturday when we come, we can go fishing. We just started that routine again. Then Allah said, look, even that is still haram. You can't do that. Because you still consider fishing, so you cannot allow to do that. They said, okay. So then they came with another way. They said, okay, maybe Allah doesn't like us doing tunnels, but let's try another thing. So when they came up with another idea that on Friday, the day that they suppose when they leave they can't come back the next day, they started to set the nets. Right? They go up the nets all over the river, right? In a way that when the fish come, they get stuck into the nets. On Saturday, so by Sunday they come, they already stuck there, so they fish them on Sunday, so they didn't do Saturday fishing, so they're still smart with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, look, you try the first with the dogs, didn't work. You try with the tunnels, didn't work. Now you try with the nets, it's not going to work. It's still haram, you're not allowed to do that. Right? Some narrators said there used to be three group of tribes among the Bani Israel. So one of them was a little bit, God-fearing people, so they told the other two groups, please don't do that. God said, don't do it, just stop. So what happened? The other two, no, they didn't listen, so continuously they were doing what they're doing. They will put the nets on Friday, and the fish will get stuck, and then Sunday they'll come and take the fish. Now, after all the warnings that they ignored, one Friday they came, they put all the nets together, and they left. And then on Sunday they came to fish. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, okay, now that's it. Allah told Jibreel, kun fayakun. And then Allah said, now is the time to turn you guys into monkeys. Half of them became monkeys, half of them became pigs. Right? Allah said, that's your punishment. So they became pigs and monkeys. But here, the tafsir said, some of them said, they were not then pigs and monkeys by the body, but just by the spirit. The spirit became monkeys and pigs, but their body was still humans. Right? And some tafsir said, no, they were turned into monkeys and pigs by the bodies. Right? And some say they were monkeys and pigs for a few days, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala killed all of them, and they turned to dust. Now, the point is this. The reason why I brought all of these is just to take some lessons from the month of Ramadan as we are observing this holy month. There are so many lessons to learn from this story. Number one, the first lesson is never try to play a smarty with Allah. Right? It's called, and some people even call it hila shar'iyya, meaning some kind of loopholes with Allah. Right? Scientists, Allah says don't do. I try to be smart with Allah. Allah tells us that it doesn't matter how smart you think you are, He is smarter than you. So what it is we always have to stop at the point where Allah says stop. What He tells you to do, just do that. That's it. Right? That is lesson number one. Lesson number two. We also have to understand that the moment we start to go against the teaching of Allah, that is the moment we will lose all the blessings of Allah. Whatever Allah gave you as a blessing, anything that you have. The moment I started to go against His teaching, then Allah said, I'm going to take it away from you. And you see Imam Ali mentioned this in the Al-Qamar. Allahumma ghfir li al-dhunub allati tughayyiru al-ni'am. Ya Allah, forgive me the sins that takes away the blessings. See, the blessings are all there. Everything is good. But the moment you started committing sin, that's why one said, اغفر لي الذنوب. Then, sin you commit, تغير النعم. The blessing is gone. It's going to be taken away from you. That is lesson number two. Lesson number three from this story is to learn that the punishment of Allah is not always for Yawm al-Qiyamah. Because some people they think, I can do whatever I want, inshallah, when I die, then Allah can get me. But in this world, Allah cannot. No. Allah wants to tell you that in this dunya, if He wants, He can punish. He doesn't have to wait till Yawm al-Qiyamah. He can punish in this world, as He can punish in the barzakh, and He can punish Yawm al-Qiyamah. Right? That is lesson number three. But the main lesson that I want us to learn while we observe it in the month of Ramadan, I want us to take one important message in this holy month. And that is, what is the best thing to do in the month? What is the best act that Allah loves the most, more than anything else? Right? Because when the Ramadan comes, some of us, we want to feed people, do iftar, read Quran, do Salat al-Layl, do du'as. All of these are good things to do in the month of Ramadan. But there is the best of all in the month. And this is from Imam Ali alayhi salam when he asked Rasulullah, say, Ya Rasulullah, ma huwa afdalul a'mal fi hadha shahr? What is it, the best act in the month of Ramadan that Allah loves the most? Then the Prophet said, Ya Ali, afdalul a'mal fi hadha shahr al-wara'u al-ma'am. The best act is to stay away from sin. Better than reading Quran? Yes. Better than reading Salat? Yes. Better than doing iftar? Yes. The best of all in the month of Ramadan is to be away from sin. Any kind of sin. Anything that I know is forbidden, stay away. That is the best thing that one has to do. That is lesson number one. And we can see that from the story that we just mentioned. So the first lesson is to try to distance ourselves from any kind of sin in the month of Ramadan. Because that's what the Prophet said. It is some people in the month of Ramadan, they fast then, but they have no fasting in the sight of Allah. Because they fast, but their action doesn't look like somebody is fasting. So that is number one. Number two. One of the things that we're supposed to do in the month of Ramadan is to constantly keep dua with Allah. That is very important. And all this that I'm saying, you go to the khutbah of the Prophet before the Ramadan, he mentioned this. One of the important things to do in the month of Ramadan is dua. And he said, فَادْعُوا اللَّهَ بِقُلُوبٍ صَادِقَةٍ وَبِنِيَّاتٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. Ask Allah subhanahu. Make dua, anything that you want between you and Allah in the month of Ramadan is the best thing to do. And you know the power of dua too, right? The power of dua is more than we can think. Dua, Allah has given it the power that even in what they call in the hadith, they said, Silahul mu'min ad-dua. The weapon that a mu'min can use against his enemies is what? Is dua. In one of the hadith of the Prophet, he said, ad-dua mukhul ibadah. Dua is the brain of all the ibadah in Islam. So dua is very important in the month of Ramadan. Not only that, if you want to understand the importance of dua, dua can change things that Allah already decided. And Allah gave you that chance. I decided I want something to happen. You make dua, Allah says, I'm going to change it because of your dua. Yes, Allah give you that dua. لا يرد القضاء إلا شيئين. Two things can change the decision of Allah. One is dua, the second one is sadaqah. Right? And you go to the Quran, Allah tells you that one man made Allah to change his decision. And who is that? Yunus alayhi salam. Prophet Yunus, when he was swallowed by the whale, Allah said, my decision is, he has to stay there till the day of judgment. That's my decision, Allah said. But Yunus alayhi salam, he was so smart. Right? So what he did, he knew he was in trouble, and he knew he has to call 911. Right? And he did. He was in the whale, but he knew there is a number he has to call, and he did. What was the number he called? Subhanaka inni kuntu minal. He called Allah, and Allah said, it says, فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ. He made a call when he was in the darkness. What was the call that he made? Allah ilaha illa ant. There is no God but you. Subhanak. Glory be to you. Inni, indeed I, kuntu min al-zalimin. I'm among those who have done injustice to themselves. And Allah said, fastajabna. When he made that call, Allah said, we pick up the phone. Who is on the line? Say, Ya Allah, Yunus. Alright? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, what do you want? Say, Ya Allah, I want to get out of here. Right? When you call 911, they ask you what do you want. Right? What's the problem? You tell them the problem, they send the soldiers. Allah said, Ya Yunus, this is your problem? He said, yes, Ya Allah. Allah said, don't worry, we'll get you out of that problem. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he made a call to him, to the whale. Ya whale, one, do not digest this man. That's the call Allah made to the whale. If you digest, you're going to be in trouble. So good. Number two, Allah told the whale, I said, take him out. Take all Yunus alayhi salam to the shore, and then when you get him to the shore, then now you can throw him out of your stomach. So Allah done deal. Alright? Yunus alayhi salam, when he got out, and look at the Allah. See, when somebody got injured here in America, when you call 911, what do? They come, right? Sometimes they come, and they come with what? They come with the nurses or doctors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Yunus told Allah, I'm in trouble in the whale, in the stomach of the whale, Allah said, don't worry, ya Yunus, we're going to send you the doctors, and we're going to make you, we're going to build you an hospital where they're going to take care of you. Allah Akbar. Yunus alayhi salam was in there, right? Then the whale was driving him on. Like the way ambulance take people, right? Now he's in ambulance, but in the stomach of the whale, right? The ambulance took him all the way to the hospital. Where was the hospital? At the shore. They throw Yunus out. They say, okay, I'm done. Like the buses, right? When the ambulance takes you to the hospital, that's where they leave you. Now the nurses have to come and take you, right? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنْبَتْنَا عَلَيْهِ شَجَرَةً مِنْ يَقْطِينٍ. Because he was there in his sun and it's hot. Right? Allah said, we're not going to let you get hot. Yunus. Immediately Allah made a tree to grow. So it will give Yunus a shade before he gained his strength so he can move on. And all that because he made the one call to Allah. That is the power of calling Allah. So we should understand in this month is the month to call upon Allah. But when you want to call upon Allah, that the Prophet said in the dua, he said, بِقُلُوبٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. You have to purify your heart. Know what you're asking Allah. Don't ask Allah to kill your neighbor. No. Ya Allah, my neighbor is a bad guy. Ya Allah, can you send the punishment on his house? Make a good dua. Ya Allah, make me be a good servant. Ya Allah, let me be an army of Imam Zaman. Ya Allah, let me be one of those who do things just to please you. These are the good dua. Ya Allah, give me husnul aqibah. Ya Allah, give me a knowledge that I will work according to it. That is one of the most important things we should do in the month of Ramadan. Number three, one of the things we should do. Your salat. Prayers. It's one of the most important things in the month of Ramadan. Right? After you stay away from sin, you make dua with Allah. The third thing is your salat is very, very important. And you know, I don't have to emphasize about the importance of salat. Salat is so important in Islam that there is nothing has been emphasized in Islam better than salat. Nothing. You cannot find any wajib in Islam more important, more emphasized than the salat. For one example, you go to Islam tells you, you and I, that when Allah wanted to prescribe salat, that we as a followers of Ahlul Bayt, we have 10 furu'ad-din. Out of the 10, the 9 of them, Allah sent Jibreel down to come and prescribe them. Fasting, Jibreel came down, told the Prophet, Hajj, Zakat, Amr al-Ma'ruf, except Salat. When the Salat time came, Allah told Jibreel, Ya Jibreel, there is something super precious I want to prescribe upon my Prophet and his Ummah. But Ya Jibreel, is so precious you cannot take it to my Prophet. Then Jibreel asked, Ya Allah, what should I do? Allah told Ya Jibreel, go and take my Prophet and bring him to me, and I personally will hand him the Salat myself. Then Jibreel came, the Prophet was in Mecca, they took him from Mecca, they stopped at Bayt al-Maqdis, from there to the first heaven, up to the point where Jibreel stationed. Then Jibreel said, Ya Rasulullah, the journey continues with you. But I cannot go any further. The Prophet continued and continued in order to receive this. That is the importance of Salah. Another one also about the importance of Salah. In Islam, they say when you sick, Salat is not wajib. When you fasting is not wajib on you. Hajj, you sick, you don't have to go to Hajj. But for Salah, you come to Salah, no. They say first, if you have water, you do wudu, you pray. If you don't have water, they say do tayammum. If you don't have tayammum, can I skip salat? No. They say do salat without tayammum, without wudu. The salat is fine. Now you say, Ya Allah, I'm sick, I can't stand. They say, if you cannot stand, lean on something. You can't lean on something, sit down. You can't sit down, they say, lay down on your back. Now while you're laying back, they say, I can't move, just my head. They say, move your head and do the salah. I can't move my head. They say, move your eyes. I can't move my eyes. They say, pray with your heart and in any way Allah is willing to accept. That is very important. So in Islam, salah is very important. And more importantly in the month of Ramadan. And what is more important with the salah is when we pray, we have to pray with our hearts. Don't let your mind going from here and here, thinking about food, what will be my iftar. No, let your prayer be focused on Allah. But question, how do I do that? While I'm praying in the month of Ramadan, how do I get concentration? So my mind doesn't go here and there. One of the suggestions from our scholars is number one, before you start the salat, give yourself a time to warm yourself up with Allah. Do dhikr, do some nawafil, read Quran. That is something that can help you to prepare you to connect with Allah. That's one. Number two, before you start your salat, at least get some time to say Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, because shaitan is the one who comes and put all this into your mind. So you ask Allah to keep shaitan away. Alright? Then before you start your prayer. That is second. That is number two. Number three, they said, also one of the suggestions to keep you concentrated into your salah is always when you pray, try to concentrate on the meaning of what you say. When you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, try to translate it in your mind. And every point as you go, try to understand the meaning of what you're doing, and that will help you to concentrate on your prayer and get the best reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be the true servant of Him, especially in this holy month of Ramadan, and especially in these last days of Ramadan. And Ya Allah, if you haven't forgiven us in the past days of Ramadan, forgive us in these days that are coming. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Any questions? Yes. starting to believe, I don't know if the question is clear. The question is, there are two things people talk about Imam Zaman. One is, should we focus on trying to contact him, or we should try to better ourselves? Which one is more important? The answer is, the better of these two is to work on yourself. If you do work on yourself, trust me, Imam will come to you. You don't have to go to him. He will come to you. Let me quickly share with you a story that was mentioned. This is way before the Islamic Republic Revolution. That there was an alim who, he and his wife, they were living, and during those days of Shah, they take people's hijab. When you go on the street, a woman with Islamic attire, they take it away. This lady, she refused to go out because she doesn't want her hijab to be taken out. And how long do you think she was staying home because of that? They say she stayed indoors for 40 years. Just so that nobody takes her hijab. She passed away, and her husband was also a scholar. They said after she passed away, Imam Zaman came for her funeral. Imam Zaman came. And when he came, her husband was also a marja. They said a lot of people knew that for some reason, one way or another, they knew he had some connection with Imam. And when the wife passed, and Imam came, then the alim told two of his friends, the closest friend, that Imam is free. So they went to talk to Imam. He said, Imam, why don't we see you? All these years we've been praying, Allahumma ajil ala bihorik, Allahumma ajil ala bihorik. Then Imam told them, be like this woman and I will come to you. You don't have to come to me. I don't have, I say you be a good person, observing his Islam and his teachings as the way Allah wants, is helping you. So the important part is not you and I to try to connect with Imam. No, you be as better as you can. Imam will connect with you in any level that you are. So that is what is more important. Yes. Yes. The question is, what is the meaning of the word muflih? The word al-muflih comes from the word falah. Al-falah means success. And Allah used the word قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Indeed, the believers have achieved success. Al-muflih meaning a person who is successful. Muflihun is a plural. Successful people. Good. The question is successful in what? If you're depending on where the sentence comes from. If you're talking about business, they can be successful in business. But when Quran talks about muflihun, it talks about people who are successful spiritually. In the Quran, when Allah says قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, it's not talking that mu'minun, they have a lot of houses and cars and money in the bank. No, no, no. Talking about they have achieved success in spirituality that every person should be able to achieve. Yes, sir.
You were talking about the source of how Allah put the work for the new year. You were talking about how this applies to us with Ramadan, so we should focus on praying to Allah. But aren't there different kinds of ways to pray to Allah? I mean, of course, the very fundamental way is just looking to Allah, staying in Haram is the most important thing. But then looking to Allah, for example, praying to, let's say would you say that in Ramadan, when we say this focus on worshiping Allah, is it always the fundamental way to dua, and all that kind of stuff? Or can we worship Allah in different kinds of ways as He's working out? Would that be
I don't know if the question is clear. The question is, in the month of Ramadan, we should worship Allah with so many things. But is there any way one can worship Allah with doing other things, like going to gym, for example, trying to better your body and be a stronger person? Can that also be considered ibadah or not? The answer is, of course, self-building and working out is something that Islam also encourages. The Prophet told us in one of the hadith, المؤمن القوي خير عند الله من المؤمن الضعيف. If you have two believers, one of them is weak, one of them is strong. The Prophet said, Allah loves the stronger believer, because he can help better than the weaker one, even though they both are believers. So Islam encourages being a stronger believer. That is one. And number two, Islam also tells us that you should take care of your body too, because it's amana that Allah has given to you. And Imam Ali alayhi salam in Dua Qumay, he mentioned about working out, where he says, Allahumma qawwi ala khidmatika jawarih. Ya Allah, strengthen my body so I can serve you better. In Dua Qumay, he mentioned. So it's okay. But what it is that we cannot say, because I have to work out, when I hear Allahu Akbar, I take my towel, I'm going to gym. That's minor salah. No, you can't do that. Alright? That's how the gym, yes. You can't do that. But if after I do my wajib prayer, I do my fasting, I do things, and then after my wajibat, I have time to go gym, yes, that's fine. So if I know that priority, there's no nothing wrong with that. Yes. Yes.
During Ramadan, what would you say are the best du'as to do after each salah?
Very good question. What is the best dua? See, here's what I say. Right? See, when we're sick, anybody, may Allah protect you from any sickness. When we're sick, we always go to the doctors. Right? And that doctor tells us which medicine should we take, and how much should we take, and how should we take it. And we follow exactly that. This is us to protect our bodies, right? Now, in spirituality, there are doctors too, which are Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. My suggestion is, whatever we want to read in the month of Ramadan, let them prescribe for you what to read. Don't go and be a doctor of yourself. I'm going to read this dua, I'm going to read this. No, let the doctors, spiritual doctors, to tell you what to read. And they already done that, alhamdulillah. They already make sure that they organize the du'as to read, what to read, when to read it, how, every detail is there. And the best du'a is the du'a of Ahlul Bayt. Number one, in the month of Ramadan, there are du'as that Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they already said in Mafatih al-Jinan to read after every wajib prayer. That is one. Number two, in the month of Ramadan, in Mafatih al-Jinan, there is dua for every specific day of Ramadan. That is two. In the evening when you come, there is dua al-Iftitah, which was also recommended by our 12th Imam to be read every night. That is another suggestion. And on top of that, there are so many other du'as. So the best dua is to read dua that has been described by our Imams. That's the best dua. Yes, please.
So for some of us who kind of get overwhelmed when we read Mafati, like sometimes the du'as are really long and maybe our Arabic is not good, or maybe we get distracted after 10 minutes. Is there something that, like especially for younger children, that you would suggest? Because I know that it could be overwhelming for a, say, 12-year-old to sit to read dua at the top.
Well, definitely there is the dua for the days that our Imam for the month of Ramadan, the days of Ramadan, these are very short du'as. And there are English translation of them too. I will highly encourage those du'as. They only take like 2 minutes, not more than that. Very short du'as. One can start with those du'as. Right? And then after that, if you want to add your own dua, whatever you want, you can add on that. But those dua, daily du'as, that short ones, I think they're a very good thing to start with for our meditations. Yes. Yes. Brothers asking, where can you find those du'as? For those of us who have Mafatih al-Jinan, the book called Mafatih al-Jinan, written by Allama Abbas al-Qummi, that is one of the books. But if you can't, you can go to, there is a website called du'as.org. MashaAllah, they're doing a very wonderful job. And most of the dua, they try to translate it. And some of them, they even have like transliteration as well, which makes it easier for those who cannot read the Arabic. You can also benefit from that website and get some of your dua with the meanings as well. Yes.
How is the Allah set up for school? How is the topics and the activation of the school? How do you know it's the right time?
Right. The question is, how did the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam get up for suhoor and how do they know the time? The answer is, Allah already described the timing of fasting. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah told us when to start and when to finish your fasting. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the Quran, ثُمَّ أَتِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. Now, with the time, Allah didn't mention specific time. But Allah told us what are the signs that you have to see to start your fasting. And what are the signs you have to see to end your fasting. Now, based on that, our scholars were able to put the timing the timing together to tell you that based on the signs, this time is the time that you have to start. Which now, at least you have to start at least 10 to 15 minutes before the adhan of the Fajr. Okay, which is almost around 4 or 5 or 6 these days. That is the time of the Fajr. So you have to start like 10, 15 minutes before, and that will be the time that you're supposed to start your fasting. And then end it also when the night enters, which is after Maghrib and Isha. Yes, please.
Just a quick question. It doesn't pertain to Ramadan. Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised to protect and keep the Quran complete without it being altered? But didn't he also promise that he would protect to keep the Injil and the Torah in such a way that it wasn't altered? Why is it just the Quran? Why didn't he promise to protect the other two books?
The question is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he's going to protect all the books that he sent down. One is Torah, one is Bible, and then he promised also to protect the Quran. But with all of that, we can see that the Bible and Torah were not kept as the Prophet received them. So why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promise that to protect the Quran? The reason they said, number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised to protect those two books as well. And he did. But the protection that Allah gave to that book is that whatever is done to it, people will be notified. Because if Allah didn't protect it, they can change it, nobody will know about it. And we will read it and take the same words as the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah's protection is, He made it unknown to us that those books were changed and they are not the way He wanted it to be. That is one of the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the protection of the Quran, Allah said, what happened to those books cannot happen to this Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikr wa inna lahu lahafidhun. We will protect it that nobody can add something or take it out. And on top of it, the reason why Allah is going to protect it, because the Quran is the last book. There wouldn't be any book after that. Torah and Injil, Allah knew that there will be another book after that. Right? Which will come and be more detailed than those two books. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't protect those books as He's protecting the Quran. Because if the Quran is to be distorted, there won't be any book that will come to protect the Quran after that. So that is why it has to be kept the way it is till the day of judgment. Yes, please.
I would say that the same message of the Torah and the Injil, and the Zabur, all of that,
Yes. What is it? Mhm. Yes. Yes. Sister is asking, what is the best book to memorize, and the best surah to memorize in the month of Ramadan? In the month of Ramadan, any surah you can is best to memorize. But the best of all is Surah Al-Tawfiq. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. If you don't memorize it, it's best to memorize in the month of Ramadan. No questions? Okay. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.